sections of the course called the History and Sociological Aspects in Education. Its code is OEF 1-2. My name is Peter Kapalanaka, one of the facilitators of this course. Previously, we discussed about the historical or the development of education and educational thoughts and practice worldwide. We ended on the discussion about the historical development of education in colonial Tanzania, during the colonial Tanzania. So, at this moment, we are going to discuss about the historical or the history of education in post-colonial Tanzania. Education in post-colonial Tanzania from 1961 to 1980. In this lecture, we will discuss about the development of education in Tanzania after she obtained her independence in 1961. The discussion will include changes that were implemented immediately after independence, and also the philosophy of education for self-reliance of 1967. Also, we'll see the impacts of the policy of education, of the education for self-reliance on education. The 5-year development plan and education in Tanzania. In Tanzania, education is being seen as a main vehicle for socio-economic development. Thus, the aim of and objective of education were stated in every national development plan. So after Tanzania got her independence, leaders of that particular time established what they call the 5-year development plan. So even education had to go in line to these plans. The first 5 years plan were from 1964 to 1969. The aim were to improve the quality of primary education and laying the foundation of literacy. The objective of this, after implementing the 5 years plan, then Tanzania established what was second 5 years plan. In that plan, the objectives were to produce sufficient manpower in order to meet industrial requirements and to ensure that universal primary education goals were achieved by 1989. So after implementation of the first 5 years plan of 1964 to 1960, yeah. So the objective of the second 5 years plan was to produce sufficient manpower in order to meet the requirements of industries and to ensure that universal primary education goals were achieved by 1989. So they had established goals of achieving universal primary education and the periods which they expected to make sure that the goals were achieved was 1989. After that, they introduced another 5 years plan. That was the third years plan, which was set up from 1976 to 1981. In this period, the education system in Tanzania witnessed drastic changes. These include emphasis on technical, commercial education, and the introduction of teacher training at world level for satisfying the needs of universal primary education. Now let us see the development of education in Tanzania since it attained its independence. At independence in 1961, Tanganyika had few people who had secondary or higher education. The government had to reshape the education system to get the needed human resources. Because there were few people who had got higher education or secondary education, therefore it was very difficult to run the government. Most of the officials were from outside the countries. So to replace this after independence, they had to make sure that the government get those resources. So education ordinance was established and started to be implemented in 1962. From 1961 to 1964, emphasis was on expansion of secondary and tertiary education. This was a requirement to fulfill the high position in government posts and replacement of the leaving expatriates. So it means while Tanzania got independence, some of the government posts were under foreigners. So after independence, those foreigners had to leave. So they had to be replaced by the citizens. That's why they decided to expand secondary and tertiary education. So the implementation of the Education Act of 1961 faced some challenges. First, school belonged to racial communities. As we have said while we were discussing about the colonial education, said that it was provided under racial basis. Therefore, after independence, Tanzania discovered that Tanganyika leaders discovered that the education which were left by the colonialists belonged to racial communities. So that was one of the challenges that Tanganyika faced in implementing the Education Act of 1961. Second, it was difficult to integrate different religious schools. There were religious schools. So those people or children from societies which did not belong to a certain religion did not have access to that, to education. So in order to make sure that all people had access to education, there was a need to change. Education system and the Arusha Declaration. The Arusha Declaration was a Tanzanian expression of intent to build a socialist and self-reliant nation. So Arusha Declaration was the expression of the Tanzanian government that intended to build a socialist state. So the Arusha Declaration was followed by the paper entitled Education for Self-Reliance, in which Mwalimu Nyerere formulated that policy or philosophy. So in the Arusha Declaration, Mwalimu Nyerere, who was the leader or the president of the nation by then, introduced the so-called education for self-reliance policy of philosophy. So after the declaration of which was declared in 1967, the education system was to conform to the national philosophy or ideology of socialism and the philosophy of self, or to conform to the ideology of socialism and the philosophy of education for self-reliance. Therefore, the purposes of education for self-reliance, the purpose of education for self-reliance was to revolutionize the education system to fit the needs of the socialist society at that particular time. Its objectives, the objectives of education for self-reliance included the following: to inculcate the ideal of living and working together. Second, to discourage and remove elitism. Third, to make students respect work and dignify manual labor, and to integrate school with the community. Those are some of the objectives of the education for self-reliance. The education for self-reliance philosophy was not without challenges. So to implement these objectives, the implementation of these objectives faced some challenges. Some of them are shortage of teachers, shortage of infrastructure, that is classrooms, furniture, even schools. Also, shortage of teaching materials, like books. Others were high dropouts in primary school and lack of education opportunities for handicapped children. So these are some of the objectives of education for self-reliance. These are challenges of the policy of education for self-reliance. They have said there were shortage of teachers, shortage of schools, classrooms, shortage of furniture, shortage of materials, high dropout in primary schools. Also, handicapped children did not get access to education because of any resources. The Musoma Revolution is one of the measures to try to solve those challenges of education that face the policy of education for self-reliance. So in 1974, the Musoma Resolution was issued by TAM. The aim of this resolution was to carry further the implementation of education for self-reliance and to rectify some problem which emerged in the first years of implementing education for self-reliance. So, Musoma resolution was one of the measures or the approach to address the problem or challenges that emerged during the implementation of the policy of education for self-reliance. So, Musoma resolution came up with the declaration of universal primary education, which was planned to be achieved in 1989. As I have explained previously, while I was explaining about the 5-year plan which were introduced immediately after Tanzania got its independence. So, the aim of Musoma revolution was to make sure that primary education is universal, that every child, school-aged children, every school-aged child had to go to had to get primary education. Also, it aimed at diversification of secondary education, to diversify secondary education. According to Summer Revolution, all secondary schools were to teach working skills. Working skills. Also, this was another measures to implement the goals and the objective of the education self-reliance. After going through the education after independence from 1961 to 1980s, now let us see education in post-colonial Tanzania from 1980 to 2000s. Between 1980s and 1990s, education in Tanzania was restructured following the shift of economy from egalitarian-based principles to the privatization agenda. So, education from 1980s to 1990s had to change so that to cope with the privatization policy, which was also introduced in that period. The educational privatization process is connected to the structural adjustment program advocated by the introduction in international monetary funds and the World Bank and the other internal factors. Education and the long-term plan, that is from 1981 to 1920. So, by 1981, Tanzania government plans for development were changed from short 5-year plan to a long-term plan of 20 years. Some of the educational objectives of the long-term development plan included achievement of universal primary education and the full literacy. More emphasis was put on pre-primary and higher technical and the review of women education. Structural adjustment program. By the late 90s, technological development made it possible for goods, capital, and information to move easily around the world. Thus, Western capitalism was transformed into transnational, global capitalism, that is globalization. During that period, there was easy movements due to advanced technology. There was easy movement of capital, goods, even information across national boundaries. Yeah, structure adjustment program, in short, it's SADS. By the late 1970s, technological developments made it possible for goods, capital, and information to move easily around the world. That is, the compatible technology enabled goods, capital, and information to move across the national boundaries to other parts of the world. Thus, Western capitalism was transformed into transnational or global capitalism. Global capitalism had some effects in the economic system of developing countries. The existence of state-run economies and state ownership of the key industrial sector in many countries, including Tanzania, were seen as hindering the integration of the world capitalism. So after technological developments, states' ownership of the key industries and other enterprises was seen as the hindrance to the integration of the world capitalism. So in 1980s, many African states, including Tanzania, experienced economic and fiscal crises. There was some challenges to African states during these periods because of the fall of prices of their crops, especially coast crops. There was also rise of price of oil in the world market. So this made most of African states to experience economic and fiscal problems. The response of IMF and the World Bank that they introduced the structural adjustment program as a strategy for economic recovery because African countries were experiencing financial crises. Therefore, World Bank and the International Monetary Fund introduced what they call structural adjustment program as a measure to revive the African economy. So SAP asked the developing countries to follow the global trend of liberalizing their economy and prioritizing their public enterprise, where social services and education in particular were included. So one of the recommendations of the IMF and the World Bank for Africa to recover their economy was to liberalize their economy. Because before, the economy were under the control of the states. Even the enterprises were under the control. Even the schools were under the control of the states. So privatization was introduced by the SAP as a way of making African countries to recover their economy. The implementation of SAP had adverse effects on education. Countries in Africa, including Tanzania, had to accept to change their economy from egalitarian to privatization. So the privatization process or economic liberalization had some effects on the provision of social services, including education. These effects include UPE, universal primary education. Universal primary education faces with challenges or problems of human and physical resources because the IMF and the World Bank advised African states to privatize the provision of social services. So UPE face challenges of financial resources. Also, because of lack of enough funds, high dropout, and limited opportunity for primary school leavers to join secondary school, was also another problem. Even the school leavers who completed Standard 7 did not get any permits. So those were the challenges that African states faced during the implementation of SAM. So, because of those challenges that were introduced or were imposed in in Tanzanians and African states by the Structural Adjustment Program, the Tanzanian government had to take some steps to address the challenges which it was facing. So it has to reform its education system and the other means of providing services. And the result, a presidential commission was formed, headed by Jackson Makweta, an MP, who later became an education minister. In 1982, the commission produced a report titled Education System in Tanzania toward the year 2000, commonly referred as the Makweta Report. The report had a number of recommendations that needed some changes in Tanzania education system. So Makweta Report came up with some recommendations that asked the government of Tanzania to reform its education system. In 1984, the government set strategies for implementation of the recommendation contained in the Makweta reports. So I have highlighted my presentation, but more detailed information on the recommendation and steps that Tanzania was taken to implement those recommendations can be found in our study materials that have been uploaded in the Moodle. It is easier to access it, so please receive them more. You understand it better while going through that material. However, when Tanzania agreed to implement SAM, which took place, the implementation which took place from 1986, the external pressure when Tanzania agreed to implement SAM in 1986, the external pressure for more radical change in the education system, especially from IMF and World Bank, became more prominent and the fiscal situation became more worse. So in this context, in the context of economic recovery plan and on the advice of the World Bank, secondary school fees were introduced, more day schools were opened, especially in urban areas, so as to make families responsible for the costs associated with housing and feeding the children. So what I can say here that the economic recovery plan was a plan set to implement what Tanzania agreed to implement Structural Adjustment Program in 1986. The external pressure for more radical change in the education system, which were some of the conditions from IMF and World Bank, become more prominent and the fiscal situation become worse. It means financial crisis, it was at high level. Therefore, in the context of the economic recovery plan, and on the advice of the World Bank and IMF, Tanzania decided to privatize its institution and liberalize its economy. In that case, more secondary schools were opened, especially in urban areas, so as to make families responsible for the cost associated with the housing and feeding their children. But also, the state encouraged the establishment of private secondary schools, and a large number of these schools began to operate. So, economic recovery is more about the implementation of SAP, where the government of Tanzania decided to implement the SAP conditions of privatizing the institution, its Tanzanian institutions, and also to make family responsible for the cost of running schools. Now let us see education policy for Sub-Saharan Africa: adjustment, revitalization, and expansion. In 1987, the World Bank document, Education Policy for Sub-Saharan Africa, proposed the education policy framework that should be adopted by countries in Sub-Saharan Africa. The World Bank also proposed African countries to have education policy, clear education policy that should guide the running of their and management of their education in their countries. So in 1990, a task force led by the Dean of the Faculty of Education at the University of Dar es Salaam was appointed with the mandate to review the existing education system and come up with the blueprint to guide Tanzania education for the future. So from 1990s, Tanzania responded to the IMF proposal of establishing education policies. Therefore, the response was appointing the task force for reviewing the existing education system so that to have a blueprint that should guide the education in future. It was through that task force report that the Tanzania education policy of 1995 was formulated. So the task force came up with a recommendation to establish a Tanzania education policy and a Tanzania education and training policy. And in 1995, the policy was formulated. We have discussed more about the development of education in post-colonial Tanzania from 1961 to 2000. And we have seen the efforts of the government to make sure that its people get quality education. As we have seen, the policy of education, self-reliance, and its goals and how it was implemented. Although in 1970s to 1990s, the country faced some challenges of financial crisis to implement education self-reliance. Therefore, the recommendation of World Bank and the IMF wanted African countries to transform education system so that to cope with the capitalist development or globalization. And the results, Tanzania adopted the privatization agenda. Privatization agenda had some challenges that we have seen. Now let us see the development of teacher education in higher education in Tanzania. In these parts, we will explore in brief the history of teacher education and higher education in Tanzania. You will learn about the purpose and how teacher education was provided during the colonial and in post-colonial period. You will also learn about the development of higher education during the colonial and post-colonial periods. Teacher education during colonial periods, that is from 1890 to 1960. During the colonial period, teacher education was characterized by on-job training and was initiated and managed by religious and colonial government. So it was colonial government and religious groups that initiated teacher education in Tanzania. But it was on-job training. People who were interested to become teachers were trained while working. On-job training of teacher education. The establishment of schools necessitated the training of teachers who would teach and assist in routine administration of these schools. These teachers were trained harshly on the job to work as catechists and teachers, especially in bush and village schools. Formal training of teachers. During the colonial period, formal teacher education was provided within and outside Tanzania, depending on the grade of teachers and the level of school they were expected to teach. The early teacher training college were established as part of school of seminaries. So around the school of seminaries, there were also colleges which were training teachers. Graduate teachers were trained overseas or at Makerere. Makerere, which nowadays is the university founded in Uganda. In the 1940s and the 1950s, Makerere was the only higher education institution in East Africa. So most of graduate teachers were trained at Makerere. Now, let us go through teacher education in post-colonial Tanzania. By 1961, training of teachers in Tanzania was conducted in colleges independent of secondary schools. So, after independence, the government established colleges which were outside the schools. Colleges for training grade C, grade A, and diploma teachers were established and expanded in various parts of the country. Training of graduate teachers continued to take place at Makerere in Uganda. So, institution for training teachers for training grade A, grade C, and grade A teachers or diploma were within the country, but graduate teachers were trained at Makerere in Uganda. When the University of Dar es Salaam was established in 1970, Bachelor of Education, Bachelor of Arts with Education, and the Bachelor of Science with Education degree program started to be offered. So in 1970s, training of graduate teachers started to be done in Tanzania after the University of Dar es Salaam was established. There were also teacher education through audio initiative in Tanzania. This was a measure taken by Tanzania, or initiative taken by Tanzania, to make sure that it trained more teachers to enable most of the schools to have enough teaching forces. So Tanzania had been taking various initiatives to promote audio in teaching, in teacher training. The distance teacher education program was also introduced. Primary teacher education by distance, elimu ya walimu kwa masafa, was introduced. These were steps taken by the government to make sure that it train enough teachers to reduce the problem of teacher shortage in its schools. After coming across the development of teacher education from colonial period to independent periods, now let us see the historical development of higher education in East Africa. Higher education in East Africa can be traced back to 1922, when the then Makerere College in Uganda was established as a small technical college to meet the needs of the East African countries. In 1949, the Makerere College became a university college of East Africa with 3 constituent colleges in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam. In 1970, the University of East Africa was dissolved to create 3 autonomous universities of Nairobi, Dar es Salaam, and Makerere. Between 1970s and 2000s, efforts were made by Tanzanian government to provide university education to all qualified citizens, and as they move to develop the necessary human resources to cater for the private and the public sector. Then, the Sociological University of Agriculture was established in 1984 with the same purpose of expanding higher education provision in the country. Now, let us see how university education developed and came into existence in Tanzania. In 1961, the University of Dar es Salaam started with 14 students in the faculty. Now we are talking about the establishment of the University of Dar es Salaam. As I have said, in 1961, the University of Dar es Salaam started with 14 students in the faculty of law at Lumumba in town building situated along the Bitit Mohammed in Dar es Salaam. The Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences was opened in 1964, and the university moved to its new premises at Mlimani in the outskirts of Dar es Salaam. The Faculty of Science was opened in 1965. That was all about the establishment of the University of Dar es Salaam. Our last subsection is about challenges that East African universities or higher education is facing in East Africa. Challenges that higher education is facing in East Africa. This includes globalization, the move toward marketization of social services. Marketization means privatization of social services. This affects the administration of the higher learning institution, because privatization allows mushrooming of higher learning institution, and some run without considering taking into account the standards set by the government. Also, the development of information and communication technology is another challenge, whereby there is a problem of accessibility, internet connectivity. Another challenge is that high demand for education that outstrip capacity. Also, decreasing or windowing financial support as well as competition resulting from proliferation of private and public institutions. That is end of our discussion or our presentation. Thank you for listening.